Hello.
Happy Thursday, everybody.
Yeah.
Coming at you early edition.
Yes, it's the wake up edition, depending on where you are, or the afternoon edition. Who knows?
That's right.
But yeah.
I wonder how many people are shocked to actually see my face on this after how long it's been.
Yeah, they've been on the world tour here. Good to have you back here, Nikki.
It's good to be back, man.
Yeah.
I've missed you. I felt like I just abandoned my brother to the wolves here for the last couple of weeks.
Oh, it's okay. I took one of the weeks off for spring break, so I can't complain. It's all good. Glad to
For those that don't know, Nick went to Hawaii again. I did ask him if he was willing to adopt me, that I know how to take care of myself, but if I could be a part of his family and go on all these awesome vacations.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to pay your way, I guess, sure, why not? But
that's not the point of being adopted.
Yeah.
If you're supposed to pay, that's the adoption part of it, Nick.
Oh, okay. I see. Well, we could discuss that later off the show, I guess. I don't know.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I think we've got somebody that's challenging to be the most times on the show. He's coming back again today.
He's definitely in the top 5 of repeat guests and friends of the pod, I would say. Yeah. I don't. We got a lot of friends that come on the show, so I don't know the counts. I don't like to keep track. I just know we have a lot of friends here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess without further ado, we'll bring our friend Cote here
from the far north. How you doing, buddy?
Hello. I'm fine. I'm glad to know I'm in the possible top 5 to 8.
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm seeing Phillipson and Findsey. I don't know, but like maybe the top 3. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yes.
That sounds good. Sorry, my dog got very excited. She thinks I should be in the top 3.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain. She can rest easy. I'm fairly certain you are.
Yeah.
So how you doing, bud?
I'm fine. Things are all right. It's I always start with the weather since I live here. It's overcast. It's a little rainy today, but normally it's picking up. Things are doing great. Maybe that's a little tribute to David Lynch. You ever watch those little films he did? And he would be like, "Today, the weather is clear, turning to the 60s around noon."
Sounds like you've got the same weather we do. Same here, overcast, little gray, expecting rain. We just had snow. We had
snow.
We had like 6 inches of snow last week.
Oh wow.
Very nice.
Yep. Unbelievable.
Yeah, the weather in Hawaii was much better last week. I'm just saying, but
I wouldn't know because nobody's adopted me and taken me to Hawaii yet. Nick.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. Hey, we need to figure out a way to get there for some kind of live show. So if somebody's hosting a conference in Hawaii, which someone should, because it's amazing.
I want to get to Cote's part of the world. When's the conference is coming to your part of the world, Cote?
Well, there's big ones here. I don't know what the largest one. There was several recently. There's a platform con in London. There's KubeCon was already there.
Yep.
I don't know. There's lots of conferences going on now.
It is conference season. Trust me. It is. It seems like there's one every week.
Yes. Yeah. I guess speaking of that, conferences. Hold on. I'm not ready for this yet. But we can talk about Cloud Foundry Day, North America. I guess another shameless plug.
Yep.
But it is 2 weeks, 5 days, 13 hours, 52 minutes, and 42 seconds away. And we'll all be there speaking. So you should totally go and check it out. And we have our, VMware Tanzu is hosting a kind of day 0 event the day before to do a deep dive into the Tanzu AI solutions. So if you're interested in any of those things, check it out and check out Cloud Foundry Day.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And the AI. It is all the buzz right now. Nobody can get away from it. It's great. And Cote, you've been doing some fun stuff with AI here lately.
That's right. Well, I work in marketing, and we were talking about how great agentic AI and model context protocol was. And I was like, I better make sure I'm not just like bullshitting the world about this. and so I thought what I'd do is go actually like relearn some programming and actually do some stuff. So that I think it's been about like a little over a month now that I've gotten back into doing that, and it's like a triple whammy. Is that a word?
Yeah, sure.
Of things like one, thanks to all this AI stuff, I can actually like relearn how to program, because I haven't programmed in Java since 2005. And as you two both know, I'm always trying to get other people to like teach me how to do things. And very frequently they don't. And so, but the AI doesn't care. I pay it, so it'll do it. And so that's really fun. And boy, it's that boy. Listen to me. It's really it's effective. It works out well. And then two, I've actually like figured out like doing, I don't know. Yesterday I figured out some agentic thing maybe with MCP, and then I get to use our stuff, Spring, which is fun. And then I do it by playing Dungeons and Dragons. So it's like maybe the only way without working for Hasbro that I can I can get paid to play Dungeons and Dragons, or at least think about it. So
and that's what I love about what you're doing is, everybody else is using agentic AI for work. Cote's doing some next level nerd stuff going on with, being able to play D&D.
Yes, but it's work, right?
Oh yeah, because
it's work.
My whole whenever I started publicly thinking about or doing this project. I was at the Redmont conference, Monkey Gross, whatever this was, and I gave a talk going over playing D&D with AI stuff. But my theory that I presented there was that if you look at like the rule system and the processes and like kind of the overall context of playing D&D, it's as, if not more complex than like, filing an insurance claim, like doing your basic enterprise software stuff. Right. So my working theory, which I am not a scientist, so I don't have data or charts, but I think I've, at least at a gut feel intuition level, I think I've proven out that if the robot can like play D&D, it can easily do enterprise software. Right. Like it's pretty straightforward, all the enterprise stuff you need to do, versus like the open-ended yet very structured, rules-oriented way of playing role-playing games.
Well, and I think that's one of the things. So you can't get away from it. Everybody's been seeing the great debate when it comes to AI, especially when it comes to software development. It's the extremes on both sides. You got the one side saying it's coming for your jobs. It's going to replace all developers in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You got the other side saying, I saw this great post on LinkedIn that said AI is wonderful. It'll give you the tech debt of 50 engineers only using one. So you've got, the extremes on both sides where nobody's really paying attention to the middle of what agentic AI and what AI assistance is doing. And I love the fact that you're doing this both with Java and with agentic AI, but you're doing it for something that's fun.
And then also, I mean, eventually, Nick's already given me access to his home laboratory of Cloud Foundry. And eventually, I think I am going to have to get him. He's going to, I was thinking the next stage in what I'm doing here is I'm going to, you and I will have to be like our friend Deshaun and Oren. And you can be the Oren and I'll be the Deshaun, except less excitable. And you can be like my platform engineer. And you can like run all this stuff. Cause like I was thinking about it and like, I don't want to manage a database. Like I don't want to learn how to like do clusters and stuff. I want to be a developer and write this stuff. Yeah. And not like that seems like a lot of work, but you like doing it.
Yeah.
So we can get you set up on it. And
I will gladly help support your vibe coding habits.
I was thinking
no token charges.
we could no promises, but here's what I was thinking, Nick, is like you said, we're going to be at Cloud Foundry Day, but then we have this do AI with Tanzu stuff day beforehand that's solely free. Maybe we could have a test run where you basically just set me up a CF server and then I do some stuff with it, like because I think I've got a talk. Well, I have a talk in our workshop thing. Just, or we could have a continuum, but all I really need is, and then I should get back to what Nikki was talking about. But I think the next stage I need is like, I need whatever a RAG is, and then like a memory thing, which might be the same thing. And like, I think we could do that with the Cloud Foundry. You could get that set up. It'd be great. And then maybe I'll have to like write a line of YAML, and then I'll never have to touch that again. and then I could use it. It'd be fun.
Yes, I will help support that. And then quick shout out to Keith, our friend Keith Lee here. He's listening from a line in Universal Studios. So I feel for him. He's on, currently on a nice vacation. But yeah, a 2-hour queue.
Well, that's the great thing is, our show doesn't last 2 hours, so at least we'll help you get through, through half the line. Yeah, we hope to pass the time for you, and you could learn about all of our. Very nice. Those was one of the lines, the Hagrid ride in Universal that I just never waited in line for because it was long, but hopefully it's worth the wait there. Absolutely.
Well, I wanted to add to respond. I don't know, rejoin to something you were saying, Nikki, which is as I've been working on this stuff to that point of the middle, I've been thinking, as I say in that Red Monk talk, there's the whole clear ignoring the norms of IP law and copyright, which I think is pretty provable when you look at model stuff. How do they know all this copyrighted material? Right? You have that going on. And then also maybe the whole killing the earth part. I don't really know what to do about that. But on the positive side, I think a story that I don't hear enough in all of the the gloom and doom or the over gleefulness is like a situation like mine where I just want to relearn how to program, and now I can. and it's sort of I don't know what's wrong with that. It's really nice. And then also the ability to have when I'm playing the old Dungeons and Dragons, it's enjoyable and gives me something to do. So it's not so much a destructive force in my life, but there's something positive that comes from it. And I think it's also a like an additive thing where I'm not really taking something away from other people. I guess you could say I should go enroll and pay for some training and education, but I wouldn't do that. That takes a lot of time and stuff. So I get this whole new benefit that I had that previously I didn't have access to because none of my coworkers would ever for free teach me how to program.
Well, I submit to you that you are paying for training. I 100% agree with you. I think that, pair programming is something that Pivotal pushed for a long time. This is pair programming. It's just that your pair is now virtual, and you are learning from this. You said so yourself. You haven't programmed in a long time. This is helping you relearn programming, and you are paying for the AI. So you are paying for training. You're just doing it hands-on instead of book learning.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, I think I definitely like that thought process there, because even before the vibe coding thing became a vibe in the AI scene, you could eat you had the early forms of the continue.dev integration. We could just hook an LLM up and ask you questions and have it look at your code. But then it's kind of evolved to where you have the Claudes and things where it's just hey, just write me a bunch of code now and do all these things, where it's kind of that next level. But in most cases, I feel like it's helping you generate a lot of things that you probably you don't have the time to do yourself. But at the same time, you still have to have that enough knowledge of what's going on to sanity check and debug the situations where even I'm working with a colleague, and there's been a lot of help assisting generate a bunch of pipelines for different build systems, and it's well, all right, in this one pipeline, double quotes were used instead of single quotes. And that's causing an issue, so let's fix that really quickly. And then it's all right, in this awk statement, it's referencing 2 versus 3, and it should be 3, and let's fix that. So it's little things there to help fix, and you have to know enough about the code to actually debug it and figure out what's wrong and then fix it. But generating all that on the fly would have taken never would have gotten
a lot of time. I think there's an analogy to the Spring framework itself, where if you've seen enough demoing on the show and in y'all's life and done it yourself, but if you're starting a Spring Boot application, you can within I don't know, let's say 5-10 minutes, get something that's a little bit more than hello world. And that's because a tremendous amount of that, let's call it scaffolding, all that stuff you do from a blinking cursor is taken care of for you. And like, I guess you could say, well, you just, limited the career of a junior developer by developing that. Whereas in reality, what you're doing is business people would call it productivity, but now every developer can do more, right? And that can sound a little exhausting. It's not necessarily that you work later. In theory, it's that you work less, right? By doing that, you can do, what if the same for less is I think as an individual appealing. Now, of course, if you want to put your ROI business hat on, you're not supposed to talk like that. It's supposed to be like you're going to have more output for the same cost. But the point being that, like, to use another fancy word, right? Like, I mean, it's like any other tool. You just like can leverage your time more. You get more out of your time by having this kind of like low level or even mid to high level stuff taken care of and do things that are more interesting.
Well, and I think that's the biggest point there is, when we look at all the advancements that have really kind of come within software development, they've always been centered around one thing. That was the IDE, right? There was a single point of entry. There was a serialness to the task that you created. So you got things like Cursor and Windsurf and things that are coming in, AI assistants, Copilot. These all helped, but they were centered around the IDE. That's where everybody was staying. With agentic AI, you're now multiplying that. There's the company DX who does, DX does measurements of, developer experience productivity. They have this saying, there's no such thing as a 10X developer. There's 10X organizations, but no such thing as a 10X developer. I think agentic AI is actually getting us to the point where there may be that mythical 10X developer because now they're able to do things in parallel. With agentic AI, they can come in. They're now CEOs of kind of their own little company. They're going to spin up, like you said, AI agents to go in and do some of those mundane tasks, letting the developers really focus on what they want to do, which is create business logic and solve complex problems, which AI, let's be honest, it's not there yet, but it sure can handle those mundane tasks with guardrails really good.
Yeah. Maybe there's only like negative 10X developers because they got to put up with so much crap to do their work. And once you're crap, they become 1X developers, which is fine. Like, much better.
Yeah, I think that's, talking to people, that's one of the things that gets people excited is they're going to be able, since they're now able to do things in parallel, they're going to be able to, do more work without putting in a whole lot more effort, which is pretty much against what every company out there is doing, which is do more with less. This is going to allow them to do that without increasing the workload of the developers because they're going to have agents doing that for them.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
And by the way, can we just go back? Quick rant. I want a hot take here, see if anybody agrees. Vibe coding. I hate that phrase. It is a silly phrase. Couldn't we come up with something better than vibe coding? No?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. It's, what's it, like a month old? I don't know. I feel like it's still relatively new phrase, but I think it just, I think that it depends how you look at it. It's like, are you truly just letting full control over to the AI and not really having that due diligence? Because it's like the funniest take is that there's like some guys like I fired all my software engineers and I vibe coded this project and now we're in production or whatever. But it's like, and they're like, an hour later, it's like everything's down, like nothing's working, like everything's breaking. Like, can someone help me? And then you have like senior software devs like kind of taking a snarky stance too. Like, I'm now charging like $1,000 an hour to troubleshoot all this slop from the vibe coding scene because it's taking so long to wiggle through or debug type of thing. So. I guess there's hot takes all around, so to speak. But I think maybe it's more of this educated vibe coding or like environment aware coding, where like you need to know like what's going on, right? Like you gotta have some level of responsibility to know like.
Yeah, trust
like
but
what
verify.
You're doing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The word vibe is kind of goofy. Which I think it's kind of part of the charm of, I like a goofy phrase, part of the charm of it. It was, that phrase was making me think like you can have all sorts of vibe stuff like vibe strategy, where you're just kind of like going around by feels and like, like not really doing the underlying work. And so maybe it's like, feelings coding, but then that sounds a little pejorative. But I forget the wherever the trackable down source of it is. But, I guess the idea is like, I think what would you call it? The proper definition, ironically, to say it's proper of vibe coding is that you don't even look at the code, to the point of what you're saying, Nick. You just have something, generate it and run it. And so it just like feels right once you see it. And like, as I think of like what I do as like half-ass vibe coding, because like I am generating the stuff, but then I'm not fully committed to the idea of vibe coding. I actually go in and like look at it and do it. Like, it's more of what you were saying, Nikki. Like, it's like pair programming with the thing and asking it questions and getting it to do things. And then, ending up writing a lot of code myself. So it's more of a whatever, pair programming to some extent, which is not full on vibe coding, but it certainly is. It's not, something that is nice. For example, when I'm playing this D&D stuff, here's an example of something that is like really handy with AI stuff is like, let's say you wanted to make a random table for conversations that non-playing characters would want to have with you. And what I was doing this morning, not all morning, I was doing other tasks, but just for a little bit, is I was coming up with like, what is a good YAML file format for this? Like, if I want to have 300 things and I want to have a name and description for it. And so like, I just worked with it to kind of come up with a format. And, I didn't really accept immediately what it did. And in fact, I kind of came up with my own and then went back and said like, how about this format? And that was fine. And then you can have it generate like 500 conversation topics and then format it correctly in YAML for you, which is a lot more fun than manually doing it. And it was and that is a great time saver. And now the valuation of the Cote Skotak company is going to go up a few basis points.
Well, and I think you also just going to a new term, right? HA vibe coding. I like that. So I think we're going to use that. I do think that agents are going, one of the things I think AI is doing is it's going to bridge the gap between developers and non-developers, right? It's going to turn everybody into a developer. And when you look at this from like an enterprise concept, one of the great things here is now your marketing guys, they want to go change the web page, something that agents can do very well. They want to go change the web page. They're not having to go and take up a developer's time now to do that. They could do that through vibe coding, do that through agents, and get that done. What's your take on that? I personally think that that's what we're going to start seeing happening here is everybody's going to become a developer with this. To some degree.
I could see that happening. Like, especially if you have, like you definitely would need like a type of rollback thing. I mean, frankly, every developer needs a rollback thing where you can just go back to a nice state, which is a very like cloud native way to think. That should be more or less possible to kind of do like a whatever you call it nowadays, a staged rollout of changes to make sure it doesn't like break stuff. But like, you think about kind of what you're saying, like a lot of content management systems and things like more advanced usage of WordPress and other things. And there's like, there's a lot of coding going on there. And there's also, especially with WordPress, there's a tremendous amount of like, speaking of IP, there's a lot of IP, decades of it out on the web that these models can go train themselves on. So like, there probably are developers who would rather that like, Christopher in marketing would just go vibe code that new landing page they want rather than having them do it.
Yep. And then your developers just become gates, right? They become the check before it's released. Hey, let me go review, make sure you didn't do something like, ask for a password that we're going to throw out in the open, that sort of stuff. But
they're like the vibe verifiers.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we'll have a whole industry practice set up to clean up all these apps that are just so bloated. We're like, the simple static HTML web page is 40,000 lines of code and nobody knows why, right? Like,
that's right. We'll in a couple of years over at martinfowler.com, the ThoughtWorks people will have a post called Patterns of Devibification, where they figured out some reoccurring patterns. It'll be a 3-part series. And of course, us people that work at Tanzu, or at least me, will look at it and be like, we've been talking about that for 3 months. Why didn't we just click publish on those blog articles?
That's right.
They did it instead.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and I think you brought up another good point, and this is going to bring us full circle to, I know, something that's one of Nick's favorite topics is, when we're looking at this, a lot of the complaints are coming from the fact that a lot of public models are being used. And it's almost a bit of a poisoned well. They've been trained on bad code. They've been trained on good code. It doesn't know the difference. I think this is going to bring us around to where private AI is going to become much more important for companies. Because if you go in and you train your models that you're going to use for your agents on your code, the way that your company likes it, then you're going to get a better output than if you're using something where, hundreds of thousands of people have put stuff in, where they poison the well a little bit with potential, almost, bad code intentionally in some cases. Cause let's face it, their people suck and they do things like that. So, I think private AI is going to become more important, which is where, Cloud Foundry can fit in very well.
Yeah, I definitely agree there, and I know Cote actually led a webinar last week about the Tanzu's annual update strategy, so we can maybe dive into that a little bit too. But I think even when we think of the vibe coding scene, right? I know some colleagues that are spending hundreds of dollars per month in tokens on some of these public models, just working through some things and projects and such. But if you amplify that of like, man, think how many developers are in some of these organizations and how just ignore the aspect of private data or like concern about what are these public models injecting into your intellectual property, that type of thing. Just the amount of token spend could be a lot. And a lot of these things too, like, they might have a plan where you can say, hey, through their chat interface or client, you can have like $20 a month and you get X whatever. But like once you start saying like, I want to use the API and do things against the API, it's all still like, like build per token. And some of these requests are like, look at this code base and then like do all these different things. It's like you are passing lots of tokens back and forth doing that, just a single developer. So I think even I have a theory that maybe costs might be more of a driving factor down the road, or just as important as some of the concerns about where the data is going and where it lives, type of thing. As I think with these reasoning models and some of the more advanced models, some of the thought was that like, the cost of compute was going to go down, like when DeepSeek came out and, all that jazz. But actually, I think the cost of compute is going to go way up as MCP and this vibe coding things. You want models that have as large as possible context windows, which dramatically increases the compute power to run needed to run these models, even locally. And then they use a lot more tokens that way too. So I guess time will tell, but I do think, I think cost is going to become even more of a driving factor, I think, down the road. But we'll see.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, did you see where Sam Altman had come out and told everybody that saying please and thank you was costing him, hundreds of thousands of dollars in compute power, because just saying please and thank you. Now, we've talked about AI on this quite a bit. I mean, I'm always going to be polite to the AI when they take over. I want them to know that I was one of the nice guys. But, even the way that you're framing the questions have a cost perspective. I hadn't actually thought of that, but 100%, I agree with you.
Every word you add is, to like the questions that you add to it is just input-output tokens that are built, and, I don't know if if they have a model where they're actually making money yet or not, or how much, how many more startup rounds they can go through and raise, more billions and billions of dollars. But even then too, like, I think they released like some new feature. Was it the vision thing? I don't know. But he's like, we're out of GPUs or something. He's on there like, hold on, everybody, we can't roll this out because they can't get even enough capacity to run like this latest feature on their user base, type of thing. So
was that the part of your melt the world that you were talking about, Cote?
That's right. Just voracious is voracious the right? Just consuming resources without heed to what it is, which I think Yeah, also like cost becomes a concern because especially once you give stuff over to developers, I think because of like at least 3 reasons. One, traditionally developers don't have to pay for anything directly. So they just like, consume as much good stuff as possible. And like the better the technology, the more people are going to want to consume it, right? Like you see this, especially in the enterprise space, like usually if someone's complaining about how much they have to pay for some technology, it's because they get a lot of use and value out of it. And they're kind of like, you see in the monitoring and management company, this happens every 5 years to whatever the darling of the monitoring and log management company, world was at the time. Everyone's like, oh, that company that I use to search over my logs, I hate them. They cost so much because I use them so many times an hour and it does exactly what I want. They're so expensive. But, and that's what I think you see with a lot of AI stuff, especially with developers, is like it works. And so they want to use it all the time. And then, too, I think like there's also some, maybe I'm extra stupid or uninformed, but like today I was finally getting the open open web UI, open space web UI. I always have to remember how that's spelled, set up. And I was like, I want to go get the good models. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. So I signed up for a Hugging Faces account, and then you go in there and it's just got like hundreds of things. And so I'm not really even sure what to do with that. Like, what do I want this thing? What's a QPie or a Quip or a Jimmy, like all this stuff. And like, I just want the best one. So whatever the biggest, most expensive one is probably the best. Yeah. And, you're just going to choose that. And, and I think another thing that like, what's I'm kind of hopeful, what I'm hopeful for with like what we're doing with AI and other people who are like being brokers or middlewares is like, it'd be nice if the application developer could it'd be nice for me. I'm going to say what would be nice for me is like, I could just be like, give me the best one and I'm going to model and I'm going to use that. And then I don't care what you do in the back end, right? Like whatever the model is, like just make one that fits with the needs that you have. And, you can control costs here and there and have someone else worry about what's in the model. And I'll just use my my feelies, my vibes to see if it has a good result and use that within the box that people have put me in. But yeah, like it's like it's kind of like if you if you go, it's vacation season around the world and everyone knows if you take your kids to like a fancy restaurant, they're just going to like order a bunch of food they're going to eat half of, right? Because they're not really like cost conscious of what they're doing. And so developers are the same way. Like you either buy them unlimited buffet and you don't worry about it, or you've really got to be like, you're going to buy the kids plate. I'm not going to get you the prime rib with the champignon sauce and things like that.
Yeah.
That was a great analogy. I love
that. Sorry, kids. You are stuck to the kids menu for sure on here.
And
you are 12 and under. You're eating on this menu.
let's be honest. If they're like, let's say 15 or below, whether they're eating like recently microwaved chicken nuggets with delicious Heinz ketchup or a $60 perfectly cooked filet mignon, they don't care. Like it's going to be pretty much the same to them.
I want the prime rib. No, you'll have the chicken fingers. That's what you'll get.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Well, I wonder how much longer, we got the melt the world thing. I wonder how much longer until Microsoft really starts stepping into their undersea data centers to keep everything cool and run this stuff, because it's one of the last places we've got to put data centers. Or, when we're going to see a Amazon of models to do exactly what you were talking about, Cote. Help me figure out which model I need, because there's only like 400,000 of them.
Yeah. And you would also think, and this is kind of this is a ridiculous way of putting it, but like with that whole thanking the AI, you would think they could just like put in just a chunk of JavaScript to see if you are writing thank you and then give you a canned response, right? Like there's that's the other area where like, I think if we have whatever the equivalent of a platform engineer is for like AI usage, like if they can go in and start to optimize and do all that performance tuning, right? Because like, I don't know. I think it was the Oxide and Friends podcast back in December when all the DeepSeek freak out was happening. And they were like, you know, these are like hardware systems people. And they're like, if you go read that paper, there's like doing load balancing and these other things, right? And so like you bring these very proven traditional ways of thinking about providing services and systems design. You know, you need caching, load balancing, all that kind of stuff, right? And so like you should probably, like within an enterprise or a large organization, I would assume you'd spend a lot of time saying like, how about the first time, you know, whenever a question is asked, we just cache the result and then don't go to the model to get the answer for it again, right? Like, and in fact, maybe we use like a little tiny, like, you remember ChatGPT 3.5? Probably costs nothing to run now. How about we have a little agent that says like, has this been asked before? And then you just kind of run that and then you return a cached result, right? Like doing all these sorts of things instead of going round trip every time. Or like in Nikki's example, if it says thank you or danku or, you know, what gracias, it just says de nada and doesn't have to go back to calculate that. So there's all that kind of tuning that I think people could start doing if you have that kind of, whatever it is, the platform engineer of AI stuff in there.
You have the politeness small language model sitting in front of the large language model to produce the
that's right,
the workload on the higher end model. So
yeah, your tier 1 AI, which is like your query is very valuable to us. We will get to you soon.
Yeah. Hold on, I need the reasoning, the thinking, right? And it's like, this is not an important question. Send it to the dumb AI, right?
That's right.
Got the politeness cop standing in the middle directing traffic. Okay, you go over here and do something. This one was going to return. You're welcome.
Yeah. I generate those tokens all day.
Yep.
That's a really interesting thought process there. I guess we'll take a quick break on the chat. So shout out to Anish, Dan. Thanks for joining us. And the commentary. I was just about to add moon data centers, but Anish beat me to it. So maybe one day, if we fill the sea up with data centers, we'll get to the moon, and I don't know, wireless communication back. Who knows? But maybe that's where all the slow, the not important responses go to the moon. I don't know.
That's right. Because you got to worry about the weight of that network cable from here to the moon. You know, breaking free and destroying us all when it comes to ground, right? So
yeah, I mean that's I think that would impact a lot of things from a planetary perspective. But yeah, our moon's now attached via a Cat 1000 cable and type thing. Oh man.
So let's talk about some of the negatives. So you've had a chance to go through this and use this yourself, Cote. One of the negatives that I always hear back, people worried that AI coding is going to result in skills atrophy. People are going to rely on it too much. They're not going to be double checking the work and they're going to let their skills die. I mean, you kind of showed the opposite of that. It enhanced your skills because it's something you hadn't used in a while. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I there probably is. I think I would think about it as a person in our age demographic would think, which is I've only got so much time in the day, and so I could get a book by your Josh Longs. I could go watch all of Dan Vega's excellent tutorials, craft this stuff on my own from scratch. I still watch all those videos and things like that. And then go through like several weeks, if not months, of just sort of like, grinding it out as far as coding things on my own. And maybe I would finally be the Michelangelo of YAML files and like creating an XML RPC like server or something, right? And I could just from scratch write all of this stuff, and I would know what was going on. And just to a certain extent, when I originally learned programming, I and my coworkers were like that. Like we would know. I remember intimately knowing how class paths in Java worked and spending a lot of time debugging WebLogic and getting in, like going way down into it with that kind of stuff. But also, I didn't have 3 kids, a mortgage, a rental house, people replacing all the windows on the back of the house, a dog, like a job. I had a job, but it was just to sit there and program. And so, it's sort of like, what is the cost of like becoming like an expert who can do everything on their own? And is it, not only is it worth it, but is it going to, you can say, is it worth it as far as like self-respect and coolness, right? But is it also worth it as far as like, well, are you actually coming out negatively at the end, right? Like if you spend all that time and then like, I still got to write some blog entries about how awesome Tanzu is, but I don't get around to that. But now I really know how to like do secure sockets or whatever nonsense. Like, I think I've like lost, right? It's like any other kind of tool. Like I could also replace all these windows and doors if I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. I don't think Dan covers that. But I could watch a bunch of YouTube videos. I'd probably need to go through several other houses where I totally screwed up doing the installation. And then I could finally get around to mine, and I could probably do like one window a week. And that would probably take me like 2 months to do. And maybe I would be like, I'm all like Bob Vila, feeling great now. Or that older guy who, used wooden pegs on PVS to like build Quaker furniture or whatever. But I mean, I got other stuff to do. And so it's fine that I'm not an expert on those things. And I can just kind of, what did you say? HA vibe my way through it.
Yep. Well, and Dan weighed in on that. So he says the greatest teacher is failure, and he fears that junior devs aren't going to learn from failing and finding a solution that gets that aha moment. So if you're learning, using AI to learn, great, but don't blindly accept solutions. I agree with that. I also think that I don't know whoever's out there smarter than I am. I think we need to directly plug into Dan Vega's head. I would love to have the Dan Vega model for all Java things and just be able to ask Dan questions at any point in time without keeping him up at 24/7.
Well, maybe, traditionally, one of the things junior developers do is they go fix bugs and work on unit tests. So maybe after all this, whether it's full-on vibe coding or HA vibe coding, the first thing they do is they go fix all the vibe coding. Like they go find all the single quotes that should be double quotes.
That's
and
right.
that way they go through the code and they learn the code base. And also it's like a good challenge, right? Like why have it easy? Why have to understand and fix code written by a human when you can do it written by a maniacal, crazy, non-human entity like an AI? Like it'll really sharpen that knife of a junior developer.
That's an interesting take on it, because it's like the fear is that they won't learn, but it's a maybe there'll be just so many things to fix that they'll be expert troubleshooters and expert debuggers, right? It's like the new summer internship program is like, all right, well we released this product to production, but it was heavily vibe coded and it crashes every 5 minutes, so we fixed it by just keep constantly scaling the app up and, to get in front of that crash. But we really need someone to dig in there and see why it's crashing every 5 minutes, right? Like something like that, right? Would be an interesting, like, use case of like, hey, look at all this code and try to debug this type of thing. So,
and also, I mean, taking the comment more seriously, right? Like it is good to, failure and learning are in my book often very synonymous. I guess you can learn from success, but like, failure is a good motivator as well. And like when I've been doing this stuff, like because I want to relearn it, right? Like I don't always make myself do this, but like I often ask the whichever I use, just ChatGPT and Claude, one of those two. Like I often ask it to explain why it's doing something, and it's especially handy if I set up the I don't know what you call it. It's not the context in this. That's an overloaded term in AI land. But I tell it that I haven't coded Java since 2005. And like, if you have that kind of framing, it's actually really interesting if you care about programming, which I think your junior developers would, like for it to explain why things are done so differently now, like how they evolved since 2005. Right. And it's even fun to get into a little debate with it. Right. Like as an example, I know you two are big Java people. So, whatever. But like, back in 2005, you would make builders like the string buffer, which is to my mind, a very clean, normal way to like build things up. But nowadays, you use all this, like you make a specification and a record and you have all these nested things. And to my 2005 eyes, it's basically like you're trying to win the Perl obfuscation contest with every piece of Java code that you're writing. But people seem to like it, right? And so I asked ChatGPT about this. I'm like, what's up with this? and I go back and forth with it and I debate with it. And to some extent, it becomes the more senior developer. And I don't know, I can see where it's coming from with all of this nonsense. But, if you don't only, use it to like only do your work, but you use it that you would, as you would a teacher, and you ask it questions, you go to office hours for it, so to speak, I think it becomes like incredibly instructive. And then in that case, I mean, I have this principle that I call like bad things are bad, right? So if you do a bad thing, it's going to be bad. Like if you're a junior developer and you ignore getting good at development, that's bad. So it's going to be bad. But like, I think if you're trying to grow as a junior developer, another way of looking at it would be you can have more senior developers that can tutor your junior developers, right? Which maybe makes the senior developers now upset because they're like, well, what am I needed for? But like, you could, in theory, bring on more junior developers because you can scale out the pedantry that your senior developers would be giving them. And maybe it's not going to be great, but it's at least going to be greater than nothing, right? In general, which would be, I don't know. There's a theory.
Yep. Well, and I think you can get around some of that. One, I do think we are going to see a little bit of a shift where your senior developers end up becoming almost like managers, right? They're going to be the approvers. They're going to be the double checks. But you can fix this with company culture as well. Have, like you said, a Thursday, D-Vibe Thursdays, where we turn off AI and everybody's got to do something, on their own, or they're going back and they're going to take a look at some of their vibe codes and fix mistakes or be able to explain them. I think that your reviews are going to become a little bit more involved than they used to be when you start using AI generation, because people are going to want to double check and make sure that the AI is not doing anything. I think there's a world of possibilities for how this is going to change us. I do not believe this is going to take development. I think it's going to open development up, but I think that, the creativity that's required to really solve business problems is always going to be there. It's just going to focus our senior developers and our developers a little bit more on that use case. And, I liken this to, I do woodworking. I hate to sweep up after woodworking. It's a boring task, but it has to be done. That's why I got a robot vacuum, right? My robot vacuum does all my sweeping up for me. Agentic AI and AI is going to be that robot vacuum for coding. It's going to help me take care of the stuff I don't really want to do, but absolutely has to be done. Going back to one of our earlier episodes, documentation, great use case.
Yeah.
Great use case. Everybody loves to build code. Nobody likes to document it. Okay. Let AI go in and document it for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, shout out to, if you haven't seen the episode, it's called Concourse GPT is like the in the title. And our friend Joey was showing off his project where, he was able to document some of these concourse pipelines have been living around for a while, and make a use generative AI to document those pipelines and then publish those on a wiki page and things. So pretty sweet use case there. If you haven't seen that yet, check it out.
Cote, he just walked away.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore.
I don't like I hate documentation so much that screw this. I'm out of this conversation.
Yeah. And then
go ahead.
Yes, and Dan had some additional commentary. He's not a vibe coding hater. He loves people who have ideas, don't know how to code, and can turn those into reality. I think that use case is awesome. So yeah, I think for me, and to kind of go on with Dan's point, one, you need to know what's going on, but two, even in this use case too, where working on some of these internal projects, I'm like, all right, well, I just asked my continue.dev plugin, which is tied into my my home laboratory of all my local models running on Tanzu platform, just write a GitHub action for me that deploys to Cloud Foundry. And I don't know if it's going to be 100% correct, but it gives me the scaffolding to get started. And that's something too, there are certain things too where you may be great in Java or Python or whatever, but all these different the writing a GitHub action is very specific to GitHub, right? Or I need to write a job for GitLab. That's different. Just knowing all these different CI/CD systems, they all know how to you can at least get the scaffolding and all right, I can probably see maybe It's trying to install the CFCLI. It's an old version of the CFCLI, so I want to tweak that. Or, like I know enough about what it's trying to do to like kind of help that out. But like just giving that full boilerplate scaffolding right out the fly, I think it's an immensely useful step, especially for things that are, again, documentation. Some of these other like automation type tasks that are just could be very tedious too as well.
I think you've got a great series going here, Nick. It's just like Vibe platform engineering. Like you're in that role. Yeah. You could go through all, and you've got your laboratory, as you say. You can just systematically say, what can I use AI for? And you also have the ability. You've got a control, right? Like you've already got what works, and then you have your own intuition, so you can start to compare what these things are. And then ultimately, what you can do is you can say, you can go into whether it's Claude Code or the operator, but you can just say like, all right, here's my API key. I've set a limit of a few $100s. Write me a private platform as a service. I'm going to go have dinner and see what it comes up with.
Well, we already have it. It's called Cloud Foundry, but yeah.
See, then you can compare it. You can see how it works. You can learn between these two things here.
Well, and I mean, just think beyond that. Just think of, first of all, perfect is the enemy of progress, right? Just think about this from a financial standpoint. Everybody's saying, hey, I want this to write 100% perfect code for me. Okay, first of all, doesn't exist. But just take this from a financial perspective. If it's able to cut 45 minutes out of my time and get me 50% there, right? 45 minutes that the developer didn't have to work. When you're looking at the average salary of a developer, that 45 minutes maybe cost $5, $6 worth of tokens to do something, but you saved anywhere from 38 to 100 and some odd dollars of that developer's time that they could work on something else. Just the pure financials. Quit thinking of perfect. Just what can it do for me now? Right? It's evolving at a rapid rate. It's going to get better. But I think that's one of the pitfalls that people are falling into, is they're expecting perfect today. Well, stop it. Quit doing that. Be reasonable. Look at how it can save your times and use it responsibly. Use it in things that it can be done. It could be a great cost savings to make up for those tokens that we're spending.
Yeah. And I almost view it now as like when we talk about vibe coding, think about it almost like as a Stack Overflow plus maybe, where if before this, I would have been like, all right, I need to write a GitHub action to deploy to Cloud Foundry. I don't know how to do that. It's been 5 years or something, right? I'm gonna go Google it, and I'm gonna most likely go to land on some Stack Overflow page that's got like 5% of what I need, right? And then I'm gonna like copy that, and then I'm gonna like try to like how to write, like what's the frame for a GitHub act, like what are the maybe GitHub has just like a generic, like very generic sized version of how to build a GitHub action. Maybe there's already one, a Cloud Foundry one already out there. I don't know. Like just copy and pasting from all these different things to basically get the same level, or maybe worse level of boilerplate stuff to get started versus what I got in 5 seconds. Like, hey, write me this, boom, done. Like,
yep.
Yeah, I think that's
where we're at.
Your previous method sounds like a great way to learn from failure.
Just
your copy and pasting.
It's just well, I mean, like that was I think some of that too when some of this started coming out. There's like there are a lot of concerns about traffic on Stack Overflow going down, that type of thing. And so maybe I guess that's my take on it. But
yeah. I mean, I think and then in other domains, other areas that I've used AI stuff for the past 2 or 3 years, like I think if it'll get jobs done for you, sort of, and then it'll allow you to improve yourself and your work if you also have that, if you start talking about it and having it explain yourself and debate with it, just like you would any kind of coworker. And you can, and what's one of the fascinating things about it now is it can also improve from you telling it things, right? So it's kind of a two-way pairing that you have together. But I mean, it still is not perfect. And I don't know if all the stuff ever would be like, I do a lot of writing too, and I try to have it write things for me, and it's a good start, but then I have to go in and do the writing. And then it's always it's frequently very easy to spot people who have written their stuff with AI things. So like it's I don't know. I think the pairing thing is probably where things will stick for a while, unless you do those really simple level things there. And I was thinking though, Nick, you should maybe you can submit a pull request. I need to have ChatGPT explain to me how Git works, but you need to introduce a new command line thing into CF that's just like CF vibe, and that means that you're just going to type some natural language thing and it can go do it after you type in vibe, and that can be your experiment. Have it build that. That's the first thing you should have it build out for you. Is explain to it what you want, show it to the Cloud Foundry code base, and see if it can figure that out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be a CLI extension to some of the work Corby and Cote have been doing on their CFMCP servers. So yeah, I think we could even vibe code the extension, right? or a CF CLI vibe coding plugin, perhaps too. Maybe that's the proper array. I don't know. We'll let the AI tell me. Right?
And unfortunately, I don't want to stop the conversation, but I do have to run. I've got other obligations that are popping up, so I am going to have to jump. But please keep this going, and I'll figure out what you guys followed up with when I leave.
Nice. Bye. All right. Well, we'll see you, Nikki. We'll wrap up here in a second. Shout out to Oren for joining us today. Thank you. And then Matthias, we're about to release a Concourse MCP server. So that sounds pretty cool as well. So fun things happening in the scene.
See y'all next week. We'll talk.
See you, Nikki.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
And I guess before we close the show, do you have any anything you want to I guess maybe we'll take it from your software defined series. Any bureaucracy to end the show with, or any call outs you want to say to our listeners?
That's right. Well, I didn't go over I mentioned the programming stuff I've been actually doing. That was a great sentence. I clearly have command of the English language. But I have 4 videos I've put out now of what I call the chat DM, which is like I've written several model control protocol MCP agents or servers, whether it's a tool, a resource, or a prompt. So it's not just tools like you usually see, but I've been trying to figure out how to apply them to do it has to be Claude, because that's the one that I use. Have Claude be the dungeon master for me playing. And if you've ever seen any MCP stuff, which if you watch your show here, you have, everyone just uses tools because they're the most straightforward, logical thing. They work very well. But in the last one earlier this week, when I did one, I finally used this thing called a prompt, which I think it's basically whatever. You can go watch this episode of me doing it, but it's a good way to actually put in what starts to feel like agentic stuff, where you have an AI kind of taking a plan, a recipe, a template of what to do, autonomously going off and figuring out what actions to take to satisfy them, maybe even using tools that you have. Then it gets all that stuff together, and then it basically like synthesizes what to do next, right? And in this video, or if you do it on your own, you can watch it like going through these states, collecting the various data for it, and then putting together some new information and then taking action, right? And so it's actually it's a good way to figure out like what all this agentic stuff means beyond like commercials that you see that just kind of make it seem like it's going to do everything. So once you start programming this stuff, it's both encouraging because it works and it's great, and then it's also dehypifying because it's like, oh, that was just a bunch of marketing talk from people who don't actually do this work. So if you go to cote.io/chatdm, you can find a link to all that stuff.
Cote.io.
I think that's where it is. I better check.
Yeah, I was gonna put a link in the show. Is it on?
Yeah, there blog? You go. Yeah, it's just it's easy enough to find.
All right. Well, I will link here. I'm just gonna Cote. I'm gonna link to your blog here. I don't see the DM thing.
It's just chat DM /chat DM.
Oh, my apologies.
See, because it's like chat GPT, but
chat. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you go. Boom. Chat DM. And I really like now the thumbnail. I'm assuming that was a AI assisted graphics.
That's right.
Yeah, because I like it.
That's from several. That's from a whole bunch of mid-journeying. Like,
nice.
It takes a lot of work to get to that. Yeah. I actually, the slide I have on, I should turn it over to the videos, but I had a slide of a goblin looking thing, and I was like, you know what I should do is I should have it try to put my face on the goblin, and that's the result of it. I don't know if it's very, very good, but it's something.
Yeah, it's something to check out later here. And you have a newsletter too, so if you want to keep up with what Cote is doing, you should subscribe to his newsletter as well.
Yeah, and just today I sent one out that has as Nick said last week, we had our Tanzu annual update, and I have all the stuff and links to that in this episode this week, the current newsletter. If you go to newsletter.cote.io, you can find the latest one, and you can see you'll find the picture of our general manager joking around, and then you can see what we're up to with AI stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it wasn't in the show title. I wouldn't cover that a whole lot, but it's great to see. I guess some of the work that I've been in, and a lot of the others on the team have been working on, kind of make it to the main stage here. So thanks for showing off all that. Thanks for showing all that off, by the way. But yeah, we have a lot of past shows, a whole playlist on generative AI on Tanzu platform. So check out those. It's kind of been a common theme here within our podcast. But yeah, you should have plenty of information, and probably some of the latest and greatest is last week's episode, or 2 weeks ago, or the last episode with it's Cloud Foundry, the agentic AI platform. So we have some great work there too. Check out. And I guess last but not least, I will, you should like and subscribe to our channel. I haven't replaced this abnormally large pillow here, but don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Stay notified of when our next latest and greatest episode goes live, and catch up on all of our past episodes. And of course, if you like to listen to us in podcast format, cloudfounderweekly.com, and we're pretty much in all of the podcast players of choice. I guess without further ado, any other closing commentary, Cote, before we wrap up?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, without that, thanks for joining. Thanks for all the live viewers today. The commentary, it was great. We'll be back next week with, I'm not sure yet, but we'll figure it out. And don't forget about Cloud Foundry Day in North America in Palo Alto in a few weeks. I would love to see you all out there. And if you'd like to speak on the show or do anything like that, feel free to message us. We'd love to have you on and tell us your Cloud Foundry stories. But without further ado, I guess we'll close off with a CF bye. CF bye.